Here is your emotional body activity. Thanks for sharing your emotions. I want to validate all of them. Find your emotion word. For those of you who are listening, go ahead, pause, check in, and take a minute to breathe and ask yourself how you're feeling in your emotional body. Reference thefeelingswheel.com, which I talked about in the previous video. And here's a wheel I used to use with clients. If you go down here, you'll see the original older version. The colors are based off of high vibration or low vibration colors is how I interpret it. I don't want to say that any feeling is wrong or bad. All feelings are valid, and if you want to donate to keep the site up, you can donate there to keep the site up. Now we're going to go and find hopeful, and we're going to look at the other words around hopeful, or the other emotions around hopeful. So we have hopeful here, right? Is there something we can be optimistic about? Is there something we can be trusting of? These are things we want to ask ourselves, right? How do we now get to that root feeling of happiness, right? We can stay here. We can definitely stay here. Feeling hopeful is a really good feeling, right? But if we want to advance a little bit, do we need these? And these are just some self-inquiry questions, right, to ask yourself. Now we're going to go and find overwhelmed. So we have overwhelmed up here. We have all these other words around it, if you can see them. And then we want to dissect it. So overwhelmed, what are we anxious about? How can we ground in our body to support the anxiety and how it's showing up physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? And then the root of that is fearful. What are we fearful of? How can we start to release fear out of the vessel? Especially because when we hold on to fear, which is valid, your feelings are valid, all feelings are valid, we hold on to fear, it also impacts our sacral and our root chakra, right? When we're fearful of things, our ability to create, our ability to manifest. There's a lot that goes into it, but this is just very simple how I tie in the emotions with the spiritual as well as the physical. And this week we're focusing primarily on physical body. So here's your activity. For those of you who are just tuning in, go ahead, find your emotion and dissect it, and go on and ask yourself some questions around the emotion. And grab my book, Healing My Four Bodies.